Okay, question 5. On question 5 and 6, you have to answer the question from both texts. So question 5 should take you 5 to 7 minutes, and it's worth 4 marks. Again, if it's a low mark question, it's comprehension, so you don't have to do any language analysis. It's the same as question 1 and 3, but you have to do it for both texts. The only difference is you put it into sentences. This means you need to pick out 2 quotes from each text. You don't have to compare in this question. Just because it's 2 texts, you don't have to compare. You don't need to do PEs. Okay, so the question is, using information from both texts, explain briefly what the 2 writers tell readers about Jumbo's food and drink. Again, you're only looking for the food and drink. Anything that has nothing to do with food and drink, 0 marks. So be clear which text you're talking about, and the best way to do this really is just to use the writer's surnames for structure. So that's how I would structure. These aren't the answers, by the way, but that's how you should be structuring. Okay, Lee and Scott, it will say the names of the writers on the exam papers. So I've put, these are made up answers, but in theory, the answer would be, he says Jumbo had a bag of peanuts. He did not like the huge section of fruit. Scott says Jumbo didn't like the scraps of meat. He says Jumbo had a thin selection of fruit. So again, you'd get 4 out of 4 for that because you picked out the food. That's all the examiner wants. You don't need to explain afterward. Goes, this suggests he will be hungry. You don't need to do any of that. Okay, so you look at both extracts, so do it now if you want to. Find quotes about Jumbo's food and drink and nothing else. It's worth 4 marks, so you need to find 2 quotes from each extract. Okay, so Lee, which is a modern extract, this is what the answers were. He says Jumbo's diet consisted largely of sticky buns. He says Jumbo drank whiskey and beer to keep him calm. So you get 2 marks. It's. I know you probably think like, oh, it's easy. This is literally what the question is. Really easy question, question 5. That's why you should always make sure you get to it. And then Scott, Jumbo's daily diet was composed of hay and oats and bread. Scott says Jumbo drank chiefly water. So again, there you go, 2 marks again, and then that's it. So that's all you need to do for question 4. Again, a lot of people go wrong by doing a big paragraph. Just structure it like this. Lee, Scott, give me bullet point. One thing to make sure of though is don't just copy out the quote. That's called unabridged quotes and you won't get a mark for it. So try to do at least a little sentence starter like I've done, like he says Jumbo diet consisted, he says Jumbo chunk. So make sure you do that. Okay, question 6. Again, on question 5 and 6, you have to answer from both texts. So question 6, it's 13 minutes and it's 10 marks. This is the same as question 5, but you need more quotes. This question is worth 10 marks. This means you need to pick out 4 to 5 quotes from each text. Do not compare in this question. I'm going to go back to that, and no PE. So I would say if you're someone who's looking for a grade 4, 5, 6, 7, you do not need to compare on this question. So you don't need to say extract 1 says this, however, extract B completely disagrees. You don't need to do that. If you're looking for a grade 8 or 9, then you do need to do that probably. But if I'm teaching my students who are going probably for grades 4 to 5 to 6 to 7, just do exactly what you did on question 5, but more quotes. All right. So the question this time is, both of these texts are about Jumbo the elephant and his life in London. Basically talk about what the writers tell readers about Jumbo's life in London. Again, I've said compare. If the question say, I know it will say on the question compare. If you're going for grade 4, 5, 6, 7, you don't need to compare. Just do exactly what you did in question 5 and you get 8 marks out of 10 easily. Okay. Again, all we're looking at is Jumbo's life in London. If you talk about his life before or after, 0 marks. Okay, so remember this was question 5 that we just went through. You're doing exactly the same, but we're just looking for more quotes. Okay, so exactly the same as you did on question 5 2 or 3 minutes ago in the video, but you're just doing more. Okay, so on this question then, if you've got the extract in front of you or have a read, highlight your text for key quotes for the question, i.e. Jumbo's life at London Zoo. Look for 4 or 5 quotes from each extract, and I'll give you one example to get going. He became an instant hit at London Zoo. That would give you 1 mark. So pause the video if you want, or I'll go through it. Okay, so Lee, so again, we're using exactly the same structure, surnames, underline it, then do bullet points. So Lee says Jumbo was an instant hit at London Zoo. Jumbo arrived at London Zoo in 1865. He developed a strong bond with his keeper at London Zoo. He had a monotonous diet at the zoo. And then Scott tells the reader Jumbo would carry children almost daily at the zoo. He would eat the cakes the children gave to him. On one occasion, he returned a child who had fallen in front of him, and he would sometimes get mad when he was at the zoo. However, this was only if he was provoked by some drunken fool. So again, I've got 9 quotes there, so I could easily get 8 or 9 out of 10. Keep the structure, do one writer, underline it, do the bullet points, then do the same for the other one. Again, I don't just write the quote out because I won't get the mark. So if I would have just put, and if you look at Lee, the top quote, if I would have just put instant hit at Sunderland, I probably wouldn't get the mark. I need my little sentence starter of Lee says Jumbo was an instant hit at London Zoo. That's going to get me the mark. And there you go, 8 or 9 out of 10. Okay, final tips for the reading then. Time manage. When your timer's up on a question, move on. If it's 3 or 4 marks, take about 5 to 7 minutes. If it's 10 marks, 13 to 15. Keep your eye on the clock throughout the exam. Leave a 1-line gap between all your quotes so it's clear for the examiner. There's no need to say a word is a verb, noun, or adjective. That's called feature spotting. You don't get any marks for it. If you run out of time on a 10 mark question, don't do a PE. So like I've said to you, if it's really obvious quote and you're running out of time, don't bother doing the explaining and finish all questions, all right? People miss out question 6 a lot. When you just looked at the video, it's a really easy question and it's worth 10 marks. If you're missing any 10 mark questions out, you're going to struggle to pass the exam. So you've got to be strict with yourself with the clock. Keep looking at the clock. All right. Hopefully that's been some use to you, and good luck in the exam.